Welcome back everyone to Notebook Check Tech Reviews. My name's Chippy and we have the Dell Inspiron gaming laptop here. This is the, I have to look at it, 7567 gaming laptop, high-end variant, right? So we have Core i7 HQ, 7700 HQ in here, so the KB Lake Core i7, and a GTX 1050 Ti as well. 16 gigs of RAM, 4 gigs of RAM dedicated to the GPU as well, and a huge battery inside. Now, if you watch the GL62M video that I put up one day before this, you will have noticed that it had a bad screen. Now, I can immediately tell you that this one has an even worse screen. It really is quite bad. This device is €1,500, $1,500. How on earth can you get away with putting such a bad screen in what is otherwise a really good laptop? So, if you're interested in a gaming laptop as a mobile workstation, you're going to use an external screen, this is quite good. It doesn't have all the ports that you might want. For example, there's no display port, there's no USB-C with Thunderbolt, but there is an HDMI out, there are 3 USB 3 ports, there's an SD card reader, which isn't that fast, and a reasonable keyboard with a backlight. But let's just take a quick look around the device first, and then we'll go into some of the Notebook Check test results. So I hope you notice we're doing this in 50 frames per second for you on YouTube, so if you haven't pumped it up, try the 50 frames per second version. You might get a smoother experience. Based on feedback, we've also changed the microphone setup slightly, so I'm really hoping that this video is the best one we've done so far. And if you like it, please thumbs up, subscribe. We really want to give you the best quality videos and the best quality test results. You know, in Notebook Check we do some really heavy test lab testing. Our review process basically is a test lab, is a reviewer, and then it comes to me for a video overview, presentation of our results, and also a little bit of my opinion as well. So best on the net. Having said that, right, let's go to the screen first, and you can see here a TN panel, right? TN panel. Now, I had 3 weeks ago an Asus ZenBook UX43 or 3410UA, an amazing 14-inch screen, quite incredible, and a benchmark for me in 2017. This is right at the other end. As soon as I switched it on, it's like, where are the colors? Why are those greens a kind of a old wood, sort of autumnal green rather than a spring green, a nice punchy green. Colors are all over the place. The deltas over 10, the contrast is poor, the black level is poor, the viewing angles are poor, the sRGB coverage is poor as well, so really not a good screen. Having said that, there's a nice thing about this. This has got a 75 watt hour battery inside, and our Wi-Fi browsing times for this 2.8 kilo devices are huge. So if you want to go out on the road with a powerful laptop for some work that's basically not gaming or video editing or photo editing, this is a really interesting device. So let's think about this. At home with a screen, great gaming device. On the road with a built-in screen, nice for browsing, for web browsing, for reading, for writing, for a bit of content creation, as long as you're not too worried about the color. You're going to review the color later, maybe on a monitor. I thought the ML62M from MSI, sorry, the GL62M from MSI was a bad laptop. I mean, it had didn't have a backlight, and it didn't look very nice as well. This one, I think, has a little bit more going to it. That might be why it scored 80% over 78% on the MSI. Remember, this is €1,500 worth, but we've got the 1050 Ti inside. And I just had a little bit of a test with Tomb Raider, Curse of the Tomb Raider, and had a nice 40 frames a second experience with full settings, high settings on Full HD. Really good. You can get 35 frames a second out of it with very high settings on Full HD. So nice, and the battery life is good as well. So let's get back to this bit here, right? Keyboard, backlight is there. There's not a lot of throw on the keys here. It's a more stable keyboard frame than we had on, say, the MSI GL62. And for me, for someone that types a little bit like that, I actually like keyboards like this. For those of you that type a little bit more like that, you might want a longer throw. This hasn't got a long throw keyboard, so very low throw keyboard, but I like the backlight. Small arrow keys here, that might be a problem for you. Separate numeric keypad. On the touchpad, it's not too bad. Didn't have any problems with it. It's got it's got a sort of matte finish on the touchpad itself. Left and right mouse buttons are integrated, but they're not too bad in my use. In setting it up just right now, I didn't notice any major problems. So screen bad, keyboard good. Let's have a look at the ports now, because there's a little bit of a story to be told here. As I mentioned earlier on the review, there's no DisplayPort output here. There's no USB-C with Thunderbolt as well. So you've just got one HDMI out there, two USB 3s, single headset port, so you haven't got separate audio in on this, and a gigabit Ethernet port as well. You're hoping for a bunch of ports on the other side, aren't you? You're not going to get too much. You've got an SD card reader, and the speeds aren't that great on it. Transferring files at 25 to 30 megabytes per second is not great. Should be up for a device of this price, up there at 100 megabytes per second. And we've got a gigabit port as well, and the charger as well. You're not going to lose a lot of power when you do that. The battery power on this isn't too bad. Noise, as it stands right now, it's pretty silent. I can hear the hard drive spinning, which brings me to the storage inside. Remember that MSI GL62M that I had on the last video had a spinning hard drive with the operating system on it. Thank God this has got an SSD and a separate spinning hard drive as well. So the SSD is a SATA 3 connected, so you're up there at the high 400s maximum read and write speeds. That's megabytes per second. Not up there with NVMe drives that can do 1.5 gigabytes per second, but this is good enough. This is good enough for gaming. Don't worry about the speeds of the SSD on this. And you've got the terabyte spinning hard drive for storing stuff as well. So that's a nice combination. You can also get the back off this as well fairly easily. Be careful that you don't break the tabs as you take it off, but it's only a few screws, and if you're careful, you'll get that back off and you get access. And there's a picture of the insides of the device as well. So easy access for upgrading. 16 gigs of RAM in this one, remember. A quick word about how it looks. Let me just spin it around to the back there. I think this has got, let's say, a unique design. I actually quite like it. It looks kind of weird. But then, you know, I've never been able to choose the most stylish laptops. I never was able to choose the most stylish cars whenever I bought a car either. So maybe I'm just strange like that. I'm going to take it back to the front there. I'm just going to lift that up there. Front firing speaker ports, left and right. Underneath on the left, there is a sub-bass woofer. The sound out of it is actually pretty good. If you are to measure it at 1 meter, it's slightly worse than the GL62 in terms of volume, but I like that sound. It seemed quite nice for gaming on your own. The only thing is that bass, you tend to find that coming out to one side, the rest of these sort of highs coming out nice and central. You get a good stereo separation on that. It's a rubberized finish, and you know what, I've just been eating some chips and this is covered in grease on the side here. You're going to have to keep this clean if you want it looking its best, but that rubberized finish does of course bring in that little bit of friction when you're carrying it around. It's not going to slip out of your hands. It also feels nice and cool to the touch, which brings me to temperature. We didn't have any problems with temperature under our big load test. Noise, it's quiet on in sort of quiescent state, but when we get to gaming, it does push out a little bit of noise. You're going to need your headphones on and turned up a little bit to drown out the noise on this. Let me give you a couple of our performance test results then. 3D Mark 11,9725 points, not quite breaking the 10,000 mark there. The MSI GE72 with the 1050 Ti scored 10,186, but that's only 5% better there. Now go through to, I wanted to show you PCMark 8 score. There it is. And because that SSD is pretty fast, that's giving you a nice score of 5,068 on our work score accelerated test. So PCMark sort of all-round score, not too bad. Of course, PCMark doesn't test the quality of the screen. There's that green screen of gaming results up to ultra settings. That's not ultra resolution. That is full HD resolution at the very highest graphics quality settings. High is at full HD with high quality settings, and that's where I was getting 45 frames a second out on Rise of the Tomb Raider. What did our guys get? Rise of the Tomb Raider 46, and then 38 when you really pump it up to the highest of the graphics quality settings. Now that brings me to the highlight, I think, of this device. A 75 watt-hour battery in quad-core Core i7 with a 1050 Ti inside. I was not expecting these results. Wi-Fi surfing, this is the first time I've ever seen a gaming laptop do this, over 10 hours. 10 hours, 22 minutes. That is excellent. That is great efficiency. That means that you can take this out all day and, well, don't game on it, but you'll be able to use it for Wi-Fi surfing and for working. It's 2.8 kilos. It's a heavy device and it's fairly thick. You may not want to take this around with you, but if you're hot desking, for example, and you forget your charger, you're okay. 10 hours of battery life. Under load, 1 hour 21 minutes. That shows you that this really can ramp up. So there's a huge dynamic range of battery usage scenarios here. Video, for example, 7 hours 35 minutes. I'm not sure quite why you want to watch video on that horrible screen, but that was the test result for the video test. I like the first line of the verdict from Nino, our reviewer on this one. A gaming notebook for everyday life. If that screen was a little bit better, this would be a hugely fantastic device. But unfortunately, that screen is not so great. So when you're out and about, you won't be using it too much for gaming. Having said that, I did quite enjoy Tomb Raider. Curse of the Tomb Raider at 40 frames a second with full HD high settings. Just looked a bit foggy, that's all. System performance, gaming performance, battery runtime, low temperatures, and noise in idle mode. All great high points of this. Low points, obviously that screen. SD card reader was slow, lack of ports, no display port, no USB-C with Thunderbolt, and the small arrow keys. The small arrow keys might put some of you off on the keyboard there. So remember, Dell Inspiron 7000, it's a 7567. I'm looking over because I want to make sure I get that right. There are 4 variants of this. This is the US model, $1,500. But don't forget, it's got terabyte, it's got the 16 gigs of RAM, it's got the SSD, it's got the Ti version of the 1050, and it's a pretty good all-round battery life performer as well. Take a look at the breakdown of the scores. Take a look at the review if you're interested in this. Watch prices, of course. If this drops down in price, it could be worth buying if you're thinking of hot desking with a monitor, because there's nothing else wrong with it. Total score was 80%. You'll see the breakdown and you can have a look through that. Also asking you about feedback on the video, on the audio quality, on the frame rate, 50 frames per second, on the light, on the second camera setting. It's hard to get feedback that's bad sometimes, but I want it. I want to know, because I want to try and make these the best videos that you see on YouTube. We've already got the best information, so why can't I bring you the best quality video in association with that? Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.